言うことは一つだけ。絶対負けねえ。
必ず決めるぞ。
よし来い。これが俺の問答無用天下無敵の来獣シュートだ。
How's it going, everybody? There's Nothing Excess with a new player analysis video and with a new anniversary banner. It's time to change things up a little bit. The banner brings about a lot of new players and some new features that I talked about in the recent stream. And on top of that, because of that, we've also changed up, or I've also changed up the videos just a little bit to offer a little bit more information. We're going to be moving in a direction where we don't really talk pros, cons. We just look at the player and we kind of talk about the pros, cons in the very description of the player. We're not going to separate it arbitrarily like that. We're just going to go ahead and go right into it. So we'll start with Tsubasa Ozora, with outstanding leadership. So he's not Dreamfest Tsubasa, who would be his closest analog, and is in a lot of ways he seems very much to be like the economy generic version of Dreamfest Tsubasa. Like if you went to Aldi's and you were buying the Aldi brand of Tsubasa, he'd look like this. Now to his credit, however, Dreamfest Tsubasa is so strong that the economy version of Dreamfest Tsubasa is crazy good as a result. He offers some benefits you didn't really think of probably. First off, he's stronger if you don't play him just with blue Japanese players, getting along with non-Japanese players much better than Dreamfest Edition does because of his passive, which is that for every other agility player he plays with, he gets a bonus 1.5% up to 15%. First off, second off, he comes with the only S pass that Tsubasa can learn thus far in the game. It's actually really powerful thing to have. He gets S Flying Drive Pass. Now, while he's not quite as good defensively as Dreamfest Tsubasa in any way, he is close enough to be reliable when playing on the blue team. When you have 7.7k tackle, you can increase that by 15% and match that with an A or a recurring EX at level 80. That's enough to bully basically anyone that tries to dribble you. Also, a pass cut with 8.1k intercept buff in the same way will do the trick as well. His greatest weakness is probably that since he's a base 10.4k shooter with a 465 momentum, 430 stamina shot, even though it has no distance decay, it's not really a good thing to have as a defining skill, especially because Skydive shot is right there staring you in the face. So if you had like a dupe of the Dreamfest Tsubasa, you can't really pass a shot to him because you'd feel bad doing so. Anyways, he is an attacking midfielder. His roles are striker and utility. He is a shooter, despite not being probably the best at it. But primarily he's a utility player, and I rate him an S tier, and I would maybe pull for him. You know, it depends on what you need. We're going to talk about his limit breaks. Again, another new thing is that we'll be talking about at least 2 limit breaks per character. This limit break primarily focuses on sacrificing the fact that you can shoot to instead focus on pure utility. Your goal is to use passing, dribbling, tackling, and interception skills to take the ball and send it up to other players. It's not the optimal build to take advantage of how his stats are naturally laid out, but it makes him a better midfielder overall. And this one you're going to be dumping the shot on power, and instead you're going to be going with the standard utility midfielder build, which is 16, 16, 18 for the dribble, tackle, speed row, and 17, 17, 16 for the pass, intercept, technique row. Now, if you want to focus on actually trying to score with the S shot and use that, you're going to go all in on shot, power 25, speed 25, pass, technique 22-3. That'll make you a worse defensive midfielder or a worse attacking midfielder at defending, but it will focus on your offensive capabilities and also at your speed at closing forward. You're not going to strike a lot of fear in goalkeepers' hearts with just 63k shot, but when a goalkeeper is tired or when they're getting hammered with shots, you can make them question the shot long enough that they might make this bad decision, and you might score with a shot that you otherwise might not have been able to. Now, for his grading, this is a new feature. We'll be talking about how I independently grade parts of their game. First off, we're gonna give an overview. His team skill is weird in that it directly clashes with the fact that he's more flexible in Dreamfest Tsubasa on the field for mixed teams, because Dreamfest Tsubasa demands Japanese players on the field to be powerful. So he's much more flexible. As long as you're playing with blue players, he's strong. So he's an S in flexibility. You don't have to use him like that if you don't want. Now, being Tsubasa, his skill support is obscene. Even though he isn't quite a top-tier scorer, passer, or defender, he will be more than capable of playing a lot of different roles at any given time on your blue team, because there's a lot of skills that you can give him to shore up parts of the team that you need. The greatest irony so far is that his 17% all-blue Japan team skill directly goes against how easy it is to just drop into a team that doesn't entirely consist of Japanese players. So he's an A scorer, he's an A enabler, both things that he actually does pretty okay. He's a B defender. He would actually be a worse defender if he didn't have access to so many good skills. As a result, his pressure is also B. Pressure being how likely you are to take the matchup against the Tsubasa if you run into him. B is pretty much like you know, you're not too afraid of him. You think you can get around him even if he has a lot of skills. Independence A, obviously he doesn't need a whole lot of other players, but being Tsubasa, a lot of his better skills do require other players to be effective. So if you feel like Tsubasa will just always be an A independence player. Flexibility S, easy to drop into a blue team with no other requirements. A durability, actually, obviously for flexibility, or independence, if he didn't need blue players at all, if he was just like stronger for no reason, or if his passive was like a killer, then he might be a lot more independent, by the way. That's how that works. Independence relies on passive, if your team skills need other players, for example, like the Tachibanas are very low on independence. Flexibility, yes. Durability A, you know, he has a lot of stamina, but his skills are all very expensive, so he's not very durable. He does have excellent skill support. He's Tsubasa, so he gets the most skills in the game. Doesn't have hidden ability, so it doesn't count. Team skill, pretty okay, but it's not the best team skill, but if you are going to run like mono blue Japan with nothing else, then it is a nice team skill to have. And passive, also quite good. For his stats breakdown, we've got, you know, the same. You see that his stats breakdown, his defensive stats, his block is tremendously low, which results in the end at 8.8 dribble, 10.4 shot, 9 pass, 7.7 tackle, and 8.1 intercept. He is good at high and low ball, so if you do decide to make him more of like a striker that actually finishes with like push diving header or something, there is an option there, but considering Tsubasa inexplicably doesn't have an S overhead yet. Yeah. Anyways, for skill build, super long drive, flying drive shot is what he comes with. He also comes with S flying drive pass and A wing interception, all of which you'll keep. Then all you need to finish up is A South American dribble. Not wing dribble, because South American dribble is much cheaper and much easier to level, and you might as well just go with that. And A Aurora recurring EX. Now if you still have Aurora recurring EX floating around, now's the best time to just give it to him as high as you possibly can manage. Otherwise, a dupe of the S version is also a reasonable option, although that's very expensive and stamina doesn't grow on trees. You'll be paying 405 stamina and that's never going to feel quite right for a thing that Tsubasa isn't primarily designed to do, which is tackle. So that is the review of Tsubasa Ozora. Moving on, we've got Genzo Wakabayashi, the Heavenly Reaction. Like, I can ask for a while on which rating to give this Genzo. Here's the skinny on him. He has 932 stamina, which in 2019 is low as hell. But let's talk about what makes him great. He has a 500 momentum, 365 stamina catch. That's basically SGK catch, but 25 momentum stronger. Same stamina. His team skill lets you run a Japan mixed team that will give Roberto up front and Owarin and Gentile in the back 15% to their stats. That's monstrously good, since most Japan mixed teams seem to do that to maximize the amount of hidden abilities on the field. Remember that's how those team skills work now. It's the super... I forgot the actual name of it, but basically... as long as you have 8 players of the specified type, everyone gets the buff. So if you have 8 Japanese blue players, everyone on your team gets the buff. When limit broken fully on catch, his catching check on the skill he comes with is a whopping 71k without his passive actually factored in. That's basically Dreamfest level. Safety zone is also quite valuable for many players currently, as the meta seems to allow for people to take shots from right outside the penalty area constantly, and while it is much maligned for how useless it makes Green Salinas and 2018 Genzo feel, it means that you're rocking an 81.8 catch against things outside of the penalty area, so Stormy Resurrection might just be something you can deal with. That's kind of important because Green is going to move the meta a little bit towards people who can kill you from right outside, and Red is starting to look that way a little bit too, and so you do want to be able to deal with stuff right outside of the penalty box. This Genzo can do that, and sometimes he'll be able to do it not specifically with a catch. The problem is always going to be that he runs out of gas instantly. Hybridization is on the table for him as a result, so SGK Double Punch can actually be used as a way to get out of trouble with him. Tread carefully. All of that said, though, I still think that he is a SS tier goalkeeper. He is a catcher. He can be played hybrid. We'll talk about that. We will analyze both builds real quick. If you want to pull on, if you really needed to pull for anything in this banner, this might be he's one of the 3 players that you would pull for, especially if you're anywhere close to blue or Japan. He is good to have. We're going to talk about his limit breaks now. Obviously, there's 2 factors for the standard catching limit break. If you do that, your main catch hits 71.1k, 81.8k with safety zone, and your SGK double punch, however, only reaches 54.6k and 62.8k against people outside of the safety zone. Now, if you do the hybrid, you trade in like about a little over 1200 total fully multiplied special skill factored in catch, whether inside or outside. So 69.9k inside the box, 80.4k outside the box. But your SGK double punch now gains almost 4,500 points. So you have 59.1k double punch inside the box and 68k double punch against people outside the box. I'm not here to start the debate. I'm just here to offer you the information. You can decide which of these two you would do. I would probably stick to catch because I am old school and I think that having access to a bunch of different catch levels is good enough. But having uppercut like uppercut defense A and still giving him like S30 SGK double punch for the Dream Championship is still a good idea, simply because it does allow for more stamina granularity, and that will be very valuable in S30 situations. For his grading, his main save is just as good as Dreamfest save, so he has an SS on his main save. And he's not great at spam defense, but he's not bad, again, because he does have a decent enough punch. You can teach him some punching skills that will let you save stamina in the long run. He's not very independent because Safety Zone is a passive that's not very independent. For Safety Zone to be good, your defenders have to be good, otherwise it sucks. However, he's pretty flexible because of his team skill. Actually, specifically because of his team skill, he's easy to fit in a team that's blue that mostly runs Japanese players, and goalkeepers don't generally tend to be that way. They don't provide usually their own team skill that's good, and so that's nice. He's not very durable at all, but he does have Genzo's skill support, which is one of the best goalkeeper skill supports. His team skill is absolutely fantastic, and his passive can be played around. It's not like permanent no matter what you do, and so is only an A. Any goalkeeper with Safety Zone as a passive relies heavily on the defensive line to keep them solid and in the game. Getting close to this Genzo is going to be just as disastrous as it was against 2018 Genzo, although this one's more competent by default, so no, maybe not as disastrous, but it is still going to be difficult. Genzo has access to so many different levels of skills, though. You can really get granular with how you spend your stamina. If you're a blue Japan player, you're about to become intimately familiar with the sort of gambling that green 2017 Genzo players used to have to execute just to make sure they weren't getting washed by literally every spam shot in the world and every big red shooter on the planet. Straight defense seems a little expensive for how strong it is, but it is a decent A option to smack the ball away so you don't get spam shot to death. For his stats, really easy: 9k punch, 9.4k catch, 932 stamina, pretty whack, and his speed sucks, so he's actually not going to do a good job of running into the open space to steal the ball that floats too far, so be wary of that. However, 12.7k catch and 11.7k punch, pretty damn good for a catcher that's for a goalkeeper that's not a Dreamfest goalkeeper. For his skill build, he comes with S God Hand SGK catch. S uppercut defense sucks, so if you can give him double punch, do that. A straight defense, good enough for an A punch. A one-handed catch, good enough for an A catch. And C super catch is your quick catch that you use to deal with a bunch of garbage with. You'll be using straight defense, though, the most against stuff from far away if you just want to swat it back into play and aren't too concerned about enemy forward getting to it. You'll be using SGK double punch only if you get it to S30 to deal with stuff in the Dream Championship that feels a little stronger, that you can't deal with straight defense, but you really don't want to spend the full stamina on a full catch. Otherwise, like every other goalkeeper, when the opposing forward is breathing in your face and lets rip a shot that puts Evangelion fights to shame, you're going to use your S catch and you're going to pray. By the way, remember to C catch random desperation late white shots unless you like dying to random criticals you can't see, because that is a way that a lot of players lose a lot of games late. Next up, we've got Kojiro Hyuga, the Fierce Goal Getter. This is going to be kind of a funny review. You're going to see why. This character exists in a world where K-Lab has decided that in their complete and total magnanimity, they were going to give basically every player that actually gives a remote damn about being good at the game a version of Hyuga that's green, has an obscene amount of shot, doesn't really need to do anything else because his shot is 500 momentum, blows away 5 entire people, and has a passive that makes him easy to defeat blockers. So if there's blockers in the way, just shoot, just take the matchup against the guy that doesn't block your shot, or give him more shots so that you can just shoot whenever. So yeah, basically the shooter of choice for Green Japan is a dude that gets the ball and shoots the ball no matter what happens. In the end, that means that Stormy Hyuga winds up in all sorts of situations where his option can get skill blocked, which is a bit of a nuisance. However, Stormy Resurrection players have therefore taken to finding other shots in the game that Hyuga can use and giving them to him as he can have a backup option. So people with like old S30 Raijus are just dumping the S30 Raiju on Stormy Resurrection. Stormy Resurrection gets blocked? No problem, I can still Raiju. Before this guy, though, that option would have just been Raiju and Descending Raiju for when True Captaincy sends you a volley high pass in the box. Now, you can technically take both the S skills this Hyuga offers and give them to the Stormy Hyuga instead. So basically, you could gut this guy for both his shots and give them all to S30 like a complete degenerate, thus giving you the ability to always shoot the ball in virtually every scenario with Stormy Resurrection. Right outside the box, or in the box and on the ground, got skill block, no problem. You either have Stormy or Invincible Raiju. Are you in the air? You have an air version, and nobody can really skill block your air shots except somebody like a Mizuki who falls far back enough, a green Mizuki who falls far back enough to do it. So yeah, so about this guy, I guess if you give him the ball, he shoots it real hard, but he only gets to do it once and is otherwise kind of like an easy, unremarkable S tier. Full body stand just means that he gets one really strong shot and then he kind of fades away, but he gets to do things other than shooting, so I guess that's the thing he can do. If you guys noticed that I ended up talking only about Stormy Resurrection, it's because I think this guy has two skills that Stormy Resurrection really wants, and otherwise by himself he's quite nice, but really if you're playing green, you see this guy and you're salivating over two 490 shot skills. One which is a ground shot that doesn't need anyone, and another which is an air shot that needs Tsubasa, and you have Tsubasa probably if you're playing green anyway. Anyways, he is a forward. His role are striker and also skill fodder. He is an S tier though, like just by himself he is S tier, so don't worry about it. Pull maybe, I mean if you need the skills, or if you're missing a green Hyuga and you're probably not going to get the time attack one because, I don't know, you're kind of more casual. If you get him, he's good for you. Otherwise, don't. Limit breaks, there's two different striker limit breaks that you go for him. There is the standard one where you're going to keep the ball and run through people. That's the dribble 25, speed 25, shot 25, power 25 one. Go with that one. And then the other one is the B one, which is that you're not going to really care about dribbling. You're probably going to dump the ball away if you're in a bad situation with Raiju pass, which he comes with. And then that means that you take the dribble and you instead give it to pass the technique 22-3. Still though, 25 speed, 25 shot, 25 power. For his grading, he is a double S scorer. I mean, full body stand is full body stand, right? You can argue he's an S scorer because he doesn't have really game-changing aerial scoring like, say, the Tachibanas does. But because of full body stand, his first ground shot is kind of crazy. 77k, S invincible Raiju shot, or jumping Raiju shot, or descending Raiju shot if you give it to him. Slightly better would be Stormy Resurrection at like 78 to 79k, especially on the first shot that has full body stand. However, because he has full body stand, he runs out of gas, and when he runs out of gas, he's not quite as good. And because all of his shots are very stamina intensive, right after the first one, you're basically done. So if you don't have a dupe of Stormy Resurrection, you shouldn't get him Stormy Resurrection. And also because his main skill is a shot that's 490, I really don't think you should give him Stormy Resurrection, because time attack Hyuga is worth keeping just for himself. Also, his stamina is not hot at 1003. Stormy is almost like at 1200, just for comparison. And that's just another thing to feel weird about. Also, if you give him your only copy of Stormy Resurrection, you're bad, and I hope you feel bad, and I hope ants bite your ankles for a week. Anyways, double S scorer. He's an A enabler. Raiju pass is really not that bad, and with full body stand, it makes it better. He really cannot defend, and he doesn't put any pressure on the defense. Even if you were to give him Tiger Interception, it wouldn't be worth it. Independence. He's pretty independent, but he does need players that will be readily available to shoot your air shot. Now, if you were to give him descending Raiju, he would be even less dependent, and he would be more of a B. He's not very flexible. His team skill is very flexible. It's very good. However, because he doesn't do much other than stay up front and shoot, that makes him a little not very flexible. He's not like a flexible player that can do a lot of different things. He really just does one thing, and it's shoot. And so that's why his flexibility is kind of low. His durability also, because everything he does is super expensive, and he only has 1,000 stamina, almost close to flat 1,000 stamina. He's not very durable as a result. And also, full body stand makes you not durable, basically by definition, if you can't make it work with A skills. And since it's only 20%, trying to use like A skills on him is not really worth it. And so there's just a lot of little things that kind of add up on this character. Anyways, he has no hidden abilities. His team skill is fantastic though. Hopefully it'll come on another green unit, because I don't think Green Japan players want it from this character. They would rather run Stormy. Finally, his passive is S though. His passive is quite nice. Full body will always be nice no matter what. Stamina 1003, 7.6k dribble, quite nice, and 5.5k pass, round up and back up on 8.1k shot. Almost nothing in defense except for 5.3k tackle, so it is what it is. And then his stats are kind of iffy, not great speed. That does result in 10.1k dribble, 11.6k shot, 8.1k pass, and then 7.9k tackle as his last even remotely decent attribute. The rest of it is just trash into 6ks. For his skill build, S invincible Raiju, S jumping Raiju, and S descending Raiju. He comes with the first two, just give him the third. That way, there's a free chest Cheeto that you can get, and he's excellent, and you will run him in green teams. So get that guy so that you can actually have access to descending Raiju from a dupe Dreamfest. A Raiju pass is fine as your 4th option, and Tiger Dribble is fine as your 5th option. All of your shots are 490 momentum, and they cost 500, 415, and 480 stamina respectively. basically try to send them high balls. If you've got that green Levin as one of your 3 players that are not in the right archetype, then that is +2 to your green players and also a high baller. So that's nice. Now if you can't send them a high ball, just let it rip from any other place and go for broke. The main draw of this player for people with Stormy is to steal his 2 S shots so they can have more expensive flexibility for the Dream Collection, as mentioned before. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. Next on, we've got one of the 3 best players in the banner. It's Jun Mizuki, the Silently Burning Spirit. He has 10.5k tackle, 10.2k block, 9k intercept, 8.1k pass, and 8.2k dribble. And hit abilities are quite nice, and a team skill that's way too flexible to put down. So this version of Mizuki is one of the 3 major prizes in this banner, along with Kenzo and Akai. It's really straightforward to talk about how this Mizuki is and how good he is, so let's just break it down so that you can see. He has 50% Insight Master, and once he finishes his hidden abilities, and it's backed up by big stats. Once he joins the offense in the midfield, he gets 10% stronger in all of his stats. And also if you play like aggressive, you go into pressing out of the box, he gets 10% stronger. His team skill allows you to play a mostly red Japanese team and lets you play some off-team players because he has the collaborative team skill, which is the 8 players that are red Japanese. Your other 3 also get the team skill. So basically now you can float Roberto in the middle and give him 15% at least in red, which doesn't sound like much, but boy is it actually crazier than it sounds. Every time he wins a matchup, your full power gauge increases faster than it should, and you're encouraged to get into matchups because of Insight Master. Finally, he literally counters hidden ability Schneider's debuff entirely on your team. Now, people are noting that that -5% to the debuff might actually not be working as it's supposed to. It was supposed to work that it basically looks at 5% of a debuff and shaves it off. But people are saying right now that it actually is just cutting the debuff by 5%, which means that it's actually not quite that strong. It's like taking the actual 5% of the stats and then giving you 5% of those stats back. That's not very good. It would have made more sense to actually just reduce the total amount of debuffs by 5%. So K-Lab, if you're watching this video, and you might be, please look into fixing that, because that is kind of a weird thing to do, especially with one of the free players that is like you 100% of the time get 80% reduction to debuffs. I thought that, if you're playing Green Japan, obviously, I thought that the point of that was to help in hidden abilities and stuff like that, and also a little bit of PvP. You gotta like figure that out, man. Anyways, there's a lot of value to talk about with this guy. If you can find them and you play Red Japan, congratulations. You may not have a goalkeeper, but the ball probably won't make it to the goalkeeper for you to worry about. For his hidden abilities, he's got full power gauge up S. That means that when he wins a matchup, he gets 5 bonus points of full power. That's really good. If you guess correctly but fail, you get 10. So, and winning only is supposed to give you about 3, so now you're supposed to get about 8. Mid-area master, basically, it's weird on a defender, but if you're in the midfield, you get 10% to your stats. That helps you encourage him to go into the offense or to press out of the box. My team attack +2, it's not all stats, but all Japanese players on your team get 2% to their attack. Quite nice. And then stat handicap resistance. The idea was that you're supposed to tell hidden ability Schneider to go and take his ball home by shrugging off 5% worth of debuffs. The idea is that now, if you were Japanese, you didn't have to handle like the 9% debuffs. Instead, you would only have to deal with like 4%. If you're like for some reason running this guy in like mixed Japan and you were getting debuffed to some of your blue players, instead of dealing with 9 from Schneider and then like, I don't know, like the Red Gentile, well, you'd only have to deal with 4% of it. And if you had Red Gentile and you were playing red, then you would only have to deal with 2% of it. I don't know exactly if that's how it's supposed to work. K-Lab can figure that out. You can report it to him if you think it's a bug. I think it's a bug. I reported it to him. Anyways, position defender. He is a defender. He counters. The way that he counters is that he counters debuffs. He counters specifically one player's debuff. That's why I put him there as a counter, because he's supposed to make hidden ability Schneider irrelevant. And he's also a buffer by giving attack +2. I rate him double S tier. He's actually really, 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 really good for a defender. And would I pull for him if you're red? Yes. Also, his team skill is wild. We'll talk about that. Anyways, there's 2 limit breaks for him. The limit break, the first one is you're going to go all in on the fact he's a good tackler, because you already have, it'll give you like the most speed and speed kills. And also, if you use jump block from a dupe like Dreamfest version, it'll still be competent because of Insight Master. Does leave you a little bit of weaker on the intercept, but that's what you pay. So tackle 25, speed 25, and then 22 3 block power and intercept technique. Now, this one's a little more strange. The second one, it says you don't care about blocking. Maybe you'll play him a little bit more on the wing, or you have a second blocker in a 4 defender build. basically you're going to go all in on trying to pass cut. Now, you don't have an S pass cut, that doesn't mean it'll never come. Focus on tackling and pass cutting, and then using the bonus technique and speed to give a little bump to your dribbles and passes. So 25 all out to tackle speed, intercept technique. This one forgoes blocking at all, even though blocking is quite good on him. But that is an option. It's also a good option if you would rather be better at intercepting, considering you only have access to A intercepts, and you want your Insight Master to be just a bit stronger. So think about that. For his grading, he can't score at all, so just ignore it. He has like no shot. He's a decent enabler because of his the way his stat distribution is laid out and because of an Insight Master. He is great at defense. He provides a lot of pressure because people are not going to want to get into matchups with him. He's going to chase them down. He's quite independent unless you give him Skylab Interception. If you don't give him Skylab Interception A from the old version and you just choose to use an A Swift Interception, it's a worse skill, but I guess he would be even more independent than that, so that's quite nice. He's quite flexible. He's not very durable, doesn't have a lot of stamina. But anyways, he is Mizuki. He gets a lot of skill support. His hidden skills are S. His team skill is fantastic, and his passive is S. It's just all those S's, and those two double S's are an easy double S tier player. He's not an SS Independence player because he really wants to use the older 2017 Mizuki's A Skylab Interception as an interception skill, especially because he doesn't have an S version. So much better than any other interception he currently has access to. His durability is a bit of a problem. 967 stamina is more than Genzo though, so I think Blue Genzo might be asthmatic. And finally, he's just solid at so many different things, and that really emphasizes how easily of a double S tier defender he is. A lot of his strength isn't just immediately standout apparent like Akai. When you look at Akai, we'll talk about that in a sec. His stamina 967, as you can see, his shot is in the pits, but he has 2 7s in the defense and a 6. That does result in 8.2k dribble, 8.1k pass, 10.5k tackle, 10.2k block, and 9k intercept. All of that is great for a defender. Also good at low balls. So if you're trying to deal, if you do teach him jump block, he's one of the players that you would have to worry about as a Tachibana user on defense for Skylab Twin Shot, especially because of the Insight Master. Like, he can throw a jump block and possibly deal with it. So keep that in mind. For skill build, S technical defense comes with. You can find A Skylab Interception off of the 2017 Samurai, and then A drive pass he comes with. Teach him A magnificent footwork from the club version and S jump block from a spared Dreamfest. If you can't find Skylab Interception, level up magnificent interception instead. It's good enough, but it is a palpable difference because Skylab is 300 stamina but 320 intercept skill, and magnificent is a 280 stamina but only 295. S magnificent footwork is not worth the price of admission for me, and jump block is the best block that Mizuki has access to. Should be enough with Insight Master backing it up. Finally, we have Tomoya Akai, the Blazing Stopper. Now, Mizuki's a defender that's strong due to the fact that guessing right will wind up with a ball at your feet via the passive. Akai is a defender that's strong because his skills are decent, his actual stats are quite powerful. On top of that, his hidden ability selection is wild. Tenacity makes him hard to exhaust. 80% auto cut if he's roaming the midfield, 80% auto block if he's roaming the penalty area, and for good measure, if you get into a matchup with him, he outright disables your ability to shoot with one of your shots. We all know I'm not a huge fan of skill blocking in the first place. I'm quite worried about the prevalence of them, particularly targeted towards shooting. On so many different players nowadays, it's just everywhere. I feel like as of right now, Red Japan can sort of get away with it due to the fact that there's only 2 goalkeepers you can realistically play for them, and one of them is a little flimsy and the other desperately needs to keep opposing players outside the penalty area. Going back to Akai, however, having him further enables a pure Rainbow Japan team with his 12% team skill, and his passive means that anytime you guess right and get the ball or make a right offensive guess randomly, you're getting a ton of full power, 25 points as a result. That's just a cherry on top of a quite busted and wild cake. Red Japan ought to be wildly happy. For his hidden abilities, he's got Tenacity, which is S. That used to be a passive on players. If you have it, you use a team skill, you use a special skill. As long as you have 1 stamina, you can use it. That's really good, especially with high stamina players, because it means that you're going to be using special skills like the whole match. Auto intercept enhance on the middle area, 80% chance to intercept pass as long as you're running around the midfield. It is restricted to not be in the penalty area too far off the sides of the field, so you can't just have him sit in the box and dealing with crosses. However, that does mean that if you put him as defensive midfielder, he clogs the midfield quite nice. Not particularly hard to make happen if you play him at defensive midfielder or you're super aggressive at defender by holding the press button and attack mode. Auto block enhanced penalty area, not quite as good. Remember, the auto block isn't strong because it doesn't benefit from the matchup correct matchup guess like matchup blocks do. The area is a little restricted. The penalty area is quite small. It is something though. It'll help sometimes deflect some shots. Well, not deflect, kind of like weaken them. Shot skill block, double S, randomly one of an opponent's shots is disabled in a matchup. That's quite game changing. And just for buffs, just for funs, Swedish player killer. If you run into Levin, you mug him for 20%, which is kind of fun. Positions, defensive midfielder and defender. His role is as defense and as a clogger. He makes the hard to pass around in the midfield. He is a double S tier player. That level of auto intercept enhanced with access to an S intercept is quite good, and yes, I would pull for him. For his limit breaks, quite similar to Mizuki. If you go full tackle speed, you make him really fast. That's really good with auto interception. And also to move positions quickly so that you can determine whether you want the auto intercept or the auto block more. And whether it, obviously by being faster, you get into matchups more often, and with a special skill block, that's excellent. Also, if you have 2017 Akai, you don't have access to an S, unless you have 2017 Akai, you don't have access to an S block. You're going to be mostly relying on a leveled up A block to do most of your blocking, so you don't have to go too hard in there. Now, for his side one, again, the same problem with the block. In this case, even though you have a passive for it, I wouldn't go too hard into it, and I would probably make him more of an interceptor / tackler at defensive midfielder in general. You could do a tackle block limit break, but because of his honor interception, I would do tackle 25, speed 25, intercept 25, technique 25, and pair him up with a better blocker up the middle if you're going to use him as one of your central defenders. And that's probably the better way of limit breaking. Again, if you notice, that's just the same as Misugi's, and I think the way that they're set up, it's probably just better to do one of these two limit breaks overall. For his grading, he can't score but also can't enable. He has no real access to attacking skills. However, he is quite a bit more loaded in other areas. He's a good defender. He is great at exerting pressure, characters with auto cuts, and special skill blocks that mean that you really don't want to match up, and you really have to find ways to deal with not matching him up, because they have ways of enforcing not to pass over them, exert a ton of pressure on the field, and I think he's one of the better players at that. He's very independent. He doesn't really need anyone else for his skills, which is really good, and his passive doesn't need anybody else either. In fact, it's better for the team. His passive is better for the team as long as he wins. He is pretty flexible. You can play him in 2 different positions, and he serves multiple different roles so long as they're all somewhat defensive. He's very durable. He's actually one of the most durable players in the game. His skill support's not great, but it's not bad, so A. He has great hidden skills. His team skill is quite nice for Rainbow Japan, but his passive is bonkers because of how much full power you can get for guessing right with him. Best part of him is that he does basically all the work himself. He drops the ball off to any nearby player and is really good at putting pressure on the opponent by virtue of cutting off passing lanes and being a terror in a matchup. No one's going to want to get a meta matchup for him, because if you lose the ball, you give him a ton of full power to your team as a result. And on top of that, he blocks shots. So if you're not just a midfielder and one of your main options is shooting, he has a very high chance of taking the ball from you. No one's going to want to get into a matchup with him because he also never seems to get tired, even though he uses multiple skills. He plays 2 positions, serves 2 different functions. He clogs up the field with his auto cut when he runs up, tries to weaken a shot by falling back. God forbid a shooter runs into him to try and shoot. He's also just really, really fast. He has high speed. Red Japan really did get the prize this anniversary, at least for now. For his stats, as you can see, offensively, absolute bunk, but 1195 stamina, that's excellent. You do wind up with 10.5k tackle, 11k block, and 10.3k dribble. Now, 7.1k dribble is like your only... I said 10.3k intercept, sorry. 7.1k dribble is pretty trashy. There's not really much you can do with that because he doesn't learn any dribbles. And his pass is 6.3k. It's actually his worst offensive stat. So your strong pass, you just give it to him because you're praying to Jesus in case you get the ball and you don't have any other options. Skill build, he comes with S, I can't lose in a one-on-one, which is one of the longest animated skills, but it's really cool, so I don't fault it. A aggressive interception, S shoulder block, A strong pass, and S aggressive interception. The interception is good enough for small jobs like direct matchups with players that can't really pass, but that you know are going to pass. But you're going to use the S version for your honor interception because it is, even though it's only 440 max, at S30 for stuff like the Dream Championship, it should be enough. You also want it when you're facing characters who might be able to otherwise pass over you, like 315 momentum interception may not be enough to take the ball, especially against characters like, I don't know, Junior Youth Misaki, the green one. You can't get S shoulder block because 2017 units just never came back. That kind of sucks. The biggest threat to this Akai's tier rating is actually skill availability. He wasn't so good elsewhere. I mean, he has no way to get rid of the ball, so damn, it is what it is. Anyways, thank you guys all for checking out this video. These are my patrons. Thank you to all my patrons for all of your support. And again, thank you all for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and click the like button and leave a comment telling me what you think of these players or of the video. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, please subscribe and click the little bell icon to be notified of when new videos or posts are made before checking out the rest of my channel. If you would like to monetarily support the channel and work like this, you can leave a one-off tip by clicking on the Streamlabs link in the description, or you can become part of my Patreon, where you can subscribe monthly and enjoy the unique benefits available to my Patreon subscribers. You can check that out by following the Patreon link below. Thank you guys for checking my video out, and I hope to see you all soon.